news coming in right away from the state of Maharashtra and Mumbai. There's high drama unfolding at the Chief Minister's residence in Mumbai. Shiv Senics are gathering outside Varsha and they're probably, of course, looking at what is unfolding there in the state. Everyone's caught off guard. Remember, Eknath Shinde is one of the top leaders of the Shiv Sena. So basically the revolt has come from within the Shiv Sena already, and the Shiv Senics, as they are called, the supporters and workers of the party, have reached right outside the Chief Minister's residence in Mumbai. We'll be trying to get you the latest on this from our reporters who've been tracking the latest from Mumbai, and also in Surat, where that resort is, where some of the defecting MLAs are presently and secretly also holed up to ensure that nobody meets them right away. We'll try and get you the visuals coming in. Remember, Shiv Senics are the supporters, and latest visuals on your screen now. Varsha is the residence of the Chief Minister, and as you can see, supporters sloganeering in support, of course, of their Neta, because at this time it's a big jolt for Uddhav Thackeray, one of the biggest crises that he has to deal with because of one of his own Netas, Eknath Shinde, a senior Neta. The government in Maharashtra could fall. And that could happen any time now, because it appears that Eknath Shinde has numbers on his side. And if Uddhav Thackeray will not be able to resolve this, it could become perhaps a massive political crisis for the state of Maharashtra. Sloganeering there for Shiv Sena in support of Uddhav Thackeray, but clearly also will be upset and angry of what is unfolding. Let's listen in to what the Shiv Senics are shouting. So in support of Uddhav Thackeray saying, "Tum aage badho, hum tumhare saath hain." We are with you. Of course, a reference there to Uddhav Thackeray, who's also acknowledging their presence. Remember, overnight, a lot has changed in the state of Maharashtra, where this non-BJP government had come. And even though it was initially appeared that the coalition may not last long, they managed to keep it together unless this meeting, this election voting that took place, and in this cross-voting with regard to MLC, suddenly there was a surprise for the Shiv Sena and for the Mahavikas Aghadi government. So not just this protest right now that you see and support by the Shiv Senics, we're also being told that at 4 p.m. at the Sena Bhavan, there's going to be a show of strength by the Shiv Sena, the show of strength to show that they have the numbers with them in the 288 assembly seats of the state of Maharashtra. They will need a majority to keep the government running. As you can see the numbers below on your screen to help you understand why the numbers will matter. Because most of the MLAs right now, the number is only increasing as it appears. For Eknath Shinde, who has rebelled, there has been a cross-voting, but he's taken most of these MLAs to a resort in Surat. The BJP also appears to be taking and booking another resort in the outskirts of Ahmedabad in Gujarat. So a lot is right now happening, permutations and combinations, and Chandrakant Patil, who's the Maharashtra BJP chief, also just was speaking about a short while ago, smiling and of course stating that they have nothing to do with this, but they can see what is unfolding in the Mahavikas Aghadi government. So as of now, will Uddhav Thackeray be able to ensure that MLAs return to his side? Was the Chief Minister ambition of Eknath Shinde that came in the way? Was it some promise by Uddhav Thackeray or the senior leaders of the Shiv Sena that was not ensured for Shinde, that he managed to get not 2 or 3 MLAs, remember? MLAs enough of a number, and the clarity of that number is still not here, but enough MLAs with him to cross-vote and possibly defect. Will they be joining the BJP? Will it be next step, an advantage for the Bharatiya Janata Party that could not form a government in Maharashtra, that eventually went across to a coalition of NCP, Congress and the Shiv Sena? But the biggest crisis right now being watched by Uddhav Thackeray, catching him by surprise. Did he not at all managed to see what was going to happen in the next few hours by Eknath Shinde, and now suddenly caught off guard as it appears. Because remember, the NCP and the Congress right now cannot do much, because this is right now the responsibility of the Shiv Sena to ensure that Eknath Shinde and the Shiv Sena MLAs come back to the Aghadi government. India Today's editor Kamlesh Sutar joining me now from Mumbai's right outside Uddhav Thackre's residence. Kamlesh, a lot of Shiv Senics managing to come there, support. But what does it look like for the Shiv Sena? Because here Eknath Shinde is not from the NCP or the Congress. He's a Shiv Sena senior neta, so eventually it falls on Uddhav Thackeray.
Well, Pooja, Shiv Sena gathering here is not going to make much of a difference. In fact, what is more worrying for the Shiv Sena is the number of Shiv Sena leaders that attended the meeting at Uddhav Thackeray's residence. Uddhav Thackeray had called for an important meeting, but since majority of the MLAs are with Eknath Shinde, going by the numbers that we have got from from our sources in Shiv Sena, hardly 17 MLAs attended the meeting called by Uddhav Thackeray, one of the MLAs who is in Mumbai. But in spite of that, he preferred not to attend the meeting. So that is what shows the situation of Shiv Sena at this point in time. If I can just quickly go through the list,
yes,
that 17 MLAs include Aditya Thackeray himself. So that leaves around 16 other MLAs. So it's Aditya Thackeray, Vaibhav Naik from Sindhudurg, Ravindra Vaikar from Mumbai, Gulabra Patil from Chelgaon, Sanjay Rathore was brought later, Dadaji Bhuse was brought later, Mangesh Kudalkar from Kurla in Mumbai, Sunil Prabhu again from Mumbai, Prakash Fatharkar again from Mumbai, Ajay Chaudhary, who's been made the new legislative party leader of Shiv Sena again from Mumbai, then Rahul Patil, then Dilip Lande again from Mumbai, Uday Sawant from Konkan, Rajan Salvi from Konkan, Santosh Bangar from Vidarbha, Sunil Raut, who is Sanjay Raut's brother, also from Mumbai, Ramesh Korgaonkar again from Mumbai. So of these 17 MLAs, at least 13, 14 MLAs are only from the city of Mumbai. So that shows the dwindling numbers of Shiv Sena and its area of influence that strictly now remains in Mumbai. So that is something which is very, very worrying for Uddhav Thackeray, because governments can be saved and brought in later. But if it's the question of his party, this is the question of the existence of his party, and that somewhat is staring staring at a blank.
Existence of the party and also existence of and survival of Uddhav Thackeray here as one of the top leaders. What do you think, Kamlesh, if you can hear me, happened here? Because why do you think suddenly Eknath Shinde decided that he can possibly have the numbers and he can defect, he can rebel? So do tell us about what do you think happened here in the Shiv Sena.
Well, this was somewhere building for last 2.5 years. It started on the very day when Eknath Shinde was made the legislative party leader, and when there was no question of Uddhav Thackeray coming into picture. Uddhav Thackeray became the chief minister later, which was to the utter surprise of many, because no one from the Thackeray family had ever held any constitutional post. Uddhav Thackeray himself becoming CM was in a way shock to Eknath Shinde, who thought that after being made the legislative party leader of Shiv Sena in the house, he would be default made the chief minister in case the Shiv Sena decides to take power. But that didn't happen. Uddhav Thackeray became the chief minister. Then he perhaps thought that being given one of the most important ministries, he would be the default number 2 in the party, but that also didn't happen. Aditya Thackeray, who took charge as a minister, though a lower portfolio of tourism and environment, he was the de facto number 2 in the cabinet, and Minister Eknath Shinde, being the senior most leader, enjoying the support of majority of MLAs in the party, was left in the lurch. That was somewhere brewing in his mind, though he didn't speak his mind out for last 2.5 years. But those who knew Eknath Shinde in his closer circles, he always said that he's being sidelined in the party, never being interested in any responsibility. And also, the ministry that he was given is considered as one of the most important and plum portfolios, urban development ministry. But his close aides now claim that there was a lot of interference from Aditya Thackeray and his friends into his ministry. That was bothering him somewhere. Now he's saying that it is Hindutva that makes him take this action. His tweet, if we see, he has taken that Hindutva Jai by Uddhav Thackeray, that Bala Sahib has given him the teachings of Hindutva, and he will never betray anyone for power. So that somehow in a way means that the leaning is towards the Bharatiya Janata Party, and the presence of Bharatiya Janata Party leader and Devendra Fadnavis's closest aide Sanjay in Surat shows it all. So even though the BJP officially may deny it is Operation Kamal, Eknath Shinde's resentment has been tapped by the BJP, and perhaps the plan was made a long time back. These two elections became the immediate reasons for the rebellion. But at this point, Eknath Shinde has posed a question not just on the Mahavikas Aghadi government but also on the existence of Shiv Sena.
What happens here on in the next few days if we take that situation right now that Uddhav Thackeray will not be able to convince Eknath Shinde, will not be able to have rebel MLAs on their side, will lose the majority? That means the government eventually will fall. How do you think the BJP is looking closely? Will it be so easy suddenly to have the BJP take on the next mantle? What happens? What is the procedure? How are you looking at that in Maharashtra?
Well, answering the first question first, Pooja, Uddhav Thackeray has kept the doors of communications open. But is Eknath Shinde willing to talk? Will he accept that olive branch that is extended by Uddhav Thackeray is what remains to be seen. Will Uddhav Thackeray has appointed two messengers, Milind Narvekar, his close aide, and another Shiv Sena MLC from Thane. Ravindra Phatak, he would be sent. He is a close friend of Eknath Shinde. In case Eknath Shinde decides to hold talks with them, there can be some communication and this rebellion might be quelled. But that doesn't seem to be the action because Uddhav Thackeray has gone a step ahead and removed Eknath Shinde from the legislative party leader's post. So Uddhav Thackeray is also in a combative mood, so is Eknath Shinde. With neither party is now blinking, it seems to be an upfront battle. But whether the MLAs with Eknath Shinde decide to stay with him, whether Uddhav Thackeray will be able to win back all the MLAs that have rebelled, like Sharad Pawar did in 2009 when several MLAs had gone with Ajit Pawar. Sharad Pawar successfully quelled the rebel and brought them back to the party fold. Will Uddhav Thackeray be able to do that? Will Uddhav Thackeray be able to draw the same picture as Sharad Pawar tried and successfully did in 2019 is the biggest question. Eknath Shinde is a tall leader. He has been Uddhav Thackeray's troubleshooter, but now with his right-hand man, with his man Friday not around, he himself raising the flag of rebellion, it is a question for Uddhav Thackeray now, what next? Secondly, as you said, what next for the BJP? Well, sources in the BJP say they would immediately not push for the fall of the government, but yes, with the Mahavikas Aghadi numbers dwindling, the BJP would certainly meet the governor and claim that this government is in minority and they might push for president's rule in Maharashtra. How long that would go, whether the governor would send that recommendation to the Home Ministry of whether this government is in minority and should be there should be a president's rule. Will he give that recommendation is what now remains to be seen. But BJP for now is at least not
Kamlesh, the Bharatiya Janata Party's Maharashtra BJP chief Chandrakant Patil was all smiles, casually speaking, as if they're absolutely unaware and not really bothered of what's happening. But it's all to see to what the BJP would be planning next, and they would want to jump in. Do you also think, Kamlesh, and this is the benefit of our viewers, that this has become an ego hassle, so to say, within the Shiv Sena? Because even if Uddhav Thackeray budges right now, will that not reflect on him as a leader? He's the chief minister, he's the tallest leader, son of Bal Thackeray, and if he gives that mantle to Eknath Shinde, what happens to his political survival also?
Well, Uddhav Thackeray would not do that. Knowing Uddhav Thackeray, people who has been working closely with him, they say that Uddhav Thackeray doesn't very easily trust anyone. And that is what perhaps has been the biggest hurdle in Uddhav Thackeray's stint as the chief minister for the last 2.5 years. Uddhav Thackeray has not been accessible to his MLAs, not just from other parties, but from his own party. We have seen several MLAs complaining in the recently concluded 2 elections where Shiv Sena and the Mahavikas Aghadi had to face defeat, where they said that the chief minister is not at all accessible. Neither Aditya Thackeray is accessible. Where do we go to? So in such a scenario, it was only Eknath Shinde who party leaders could reach out to, and that perhaps has worked in favor of Eknath Shinde, where all the party MLAs trusted him. They went to him. He was their leader, and that is why Uddhav Thackeray lost onto that race with Eknath Shinde in winning the trust of his own party MLAs. Some party MLAs said that you can't just sit in your ivory, ivory tower and just rule the state. You have to be accessible to your party leaders, party MLAs. Listen to them, listen to their problems. There was also growing resentment among Shiv Sena MLAs that it is the NCP that is walking away with all the cake in the Mahavikas Aghadi government. NCP is gaining on the organizational front, as well as their MLAs are getting all the funds, their ministers are getting funds. It is only for Uddhav Thackeray's chief minister's post that others are being held for ransom. That was also growing, and Eknath Shinde somewhere is trying to bring out that voice of resentment of the MLAs in the party. Uddhav Thackeray at this point wants him to come and discuss. No blackmailing, no putting gun on the head and then asking for bargain. Uddhav Thackeray says, come and sit across the table, let us have a discussion. Eknath Shinde is not willing to do that. Uddhav Thackeray has removed him from the post. Next step would be that of Eknath Shinde, whether he comes out and speaks in public.
Basically, Kamlesh, can we say that right now the ball is in the court for Eknath Shinde? Eventually, because if Shinde decides to go ahead and talk, there might be a resolution. And these are more videos coming in from right outside Uddhav Thackeray's Chief Minister residence. Shiv Sena expressing all their support right now in sloganeering in support of Uddhav Thackeray. Tum aage badho, hum tumhare saath hain. But remember, as our reporters on the ground are saying, it's all good for Uddhav Thackeray to have these supporters, but they do not translate into numbers in the assembly. And that is exactly why Shinde and rebel MLAs and their support will matter much more. This is moral support for Uddhav Thackeray, sure, but not exactly that will help the Mahavikas Aghadi government to continue in Maharashtra.